Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Blissful Living Podcast. Dr. Rochel Rae Luskin, the Queen of Feeling Fabulous here. Have a great show in store for you today. And I know you all are probably like, where's her crown? Because I always have my crown on, but today the crown did not want to cooperate. I guess it's the hair day. I don't know. Who knows? But
solar flares. There's solar flares going on. So
they're just stuff in the energy of our essence. So it's okay. I'm not meant to wear a crown today, but welcome to the Blissful Living Podcast. If you like the show, subscribe to the show, share it with everyone you love and care about. And, I always like to tell you all to find a place to sit, grab something to write with, get your favorite beverage. Today, I'm drinking a citrus mint green juice. And tell your family to give you a few moments just so you can have a little time to embrace the nuggets of gold that the guest is going to share with you today. And while you're doing that, I want to take care of business. I want to thank our first sponsor, Blissful Living for You at Blissful Living, the number 4, the letter U.com. Have some phenomenal things. If you're really seriously interested in elevating your wellness, your wisdom or your mindset, and your wealth. I know most people kind of deny one of those areas and think everything's okay. But if you're not really living your dream life, not having your dream life, not all the material stuff, but really living your dream life, waking up every day feeling absolutely fabulous, energetic, positive, having the right mindset to make the right decisions that take you forward on your path to bliss, as I like to say, and in the process of creating wealth, not just for you today, but for you tomorrow and for your future generations, and leaving a lasting legacy, then you need to check out Blissful Living for You, particularly in this part of the year, because we're coming into those warm weather. And I know we like to wear less clothing. Nobody wants to look funky and fat. I guess I said that word, fat. In the summertime, you want to look good. You want to look healthy. You want to look vibrant. So check out Blissful Living for You and see what they got in store for you. You can check them out at www.blissfulliving, the number 4, the letter U.com. Now, the next sponsor is a phenomenal telecommunications installation company, woman-owned, and they've been in business for 35 years. This is their 35th year of business. It's All Day Cable Inc. They're located in the heart of Silicon Valley, San Jose, California, and they specialize in installing voice, data, fiber optic cabling, and all things network distribution for small, medium, and very large corporations, as well as in the transportation industry and all things EV as we evolve into that arena as well. So if you have a need, you're tired of not making the right connections or having faulty connections with your telecom, whether it's in your business or your residence, then you want to check out All Day Cable Inc. at alldaycableinc.com. So now let's get on with the show. So today's guest is Rae Luskin, and she is an award-winning artist, author, and creative mindfulness mentor who helps people heal through the arts. Beautiful. And you don't have to be a person I'm taking that can draw good, because Rae's going to help you with wherever you are, right? But she's a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. Rae found her way back to purpose through scribbling, storytelling, and service. Now, she developed a unique approach that combines mindfulness with expressive arts to reduce stress, build self-worth, and foster emotional resilience. As the creator of Creative Activism, Turning Pain to Purpose, a social platform and docuseries, Rae provides safe spaces for survivors to share their stories and inspire change. Her workshops and talks invite participants to reclaim their voice. No art skills needed or necessary, just their willingness to play. So today we're going to be talking about art and service and how it saved her life. And so, Rae, welcome to the Blissful Living Podcast. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here today.
Well, we are excited to have you. I don't think I've had a guest in my 15 years of doing the show that we've discussed this topic. And so I want to jump in because I know it's piqued the curiosity of those that are watching and listening to us. And so I want to ask you this. The very first question is, what inspired you to use creativity as a healing tool?
Well, I as a child, I was always into the arts. I was scribbling and doodling from the time I was little. I won awards starting at age 6 and 7, so art was always important to me. And the short and long story is that my grandfather, who saw that I won this award, said, I want to teach you to paint. And then he abused me in his art studio. So that was the backstory. So I don't want to focus on that. I want to talk about the healing aspect. So I didn't do any art for many, many years. And yet, I had crayons around the house for my kids and all that kind of stuff. And one day I just picked up a crayon and I just started scribbling. I mean, just raw pain just came out of me. And I was like, oh, wow. I never expected anything like that. And
well, we will be right back. We're going to take a commercial break, but we'll be right back. Rae is having a little bit of technological challenges, excuse me. And so we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with Rae Luskin and talking about art and using it as a healing modality. So we'll be right back to the Blissful Living Podcast. Okay, we are back. This is the Queen of Feeling Fabulous, Dr. Rochel Marie Lawson. And I was talking to Rae about utilizing creativity as a healing tool. And so we were having a little bit of technological challenges, but she's back. And so we want to continue the conversation. So Rae, you were talking about before we took the break, about you took a crayon and you were just scribbling.
Right. And people said to me, you look happy. Did you lose weight? I didn't know that there's such a thing as a somatic response, that we really store the pain in ourselves. So this was brand new. I just started scribbling and it was like, wow, it just opened something up in me. And then, I was with a therapist who then said, I want you to paint your pain. I'm like, oh, no, I can't do that. And then eventually I did. And it was so healing. I mean, all the paintings in the beginning were all black and white and shades of gray. And, they were some scary images, the pain of some generic man behind me who's, touching me and, all these things that were very painful. But then my images started to change, as did my colors. And all of a sudden I started putting in color. And I said, oh my God, I'm changing. I'm healing. Something has shifted in a big way. And so I started using this as a tool. As a background, I also created an art school called Art and Soul Connections. And that was in '99. And I started to use all the tools that I had learned over the years, which I call my work with working with kids and families and abuse survivors it's process, it's not product. I'm not asking you to be a great artist. I just want you to experiment, to play, to journal. Writing is a big part of the work I've done over the years. I used to have journals up here.
So let me ask you this. How did you develop your approach to the creative mindfulness of what you do with regards to your art?
Yeah, over the years, I had to find tools that work for me. And, beyond traditional talk therapy, I explored everything. So I got into meditation. I got into all these other mindfulness practices, whether it's Reiki healing or, those kinds of things. There was something called Radex where you go beat the wall. She had a padded room. So there was all these other tools. And then I started putting them together in a mindfulness thing. So I talk about the expression. How do you express yourself? Whether through writing, dance, music, poetry, photography. There's so many ways, or even gardening. That is creative expression. And then I talked about the mindfulness practices, EFT, which is tapping. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Yeah, and talking about that and prayer and finding my spiritual path. So all these things led me to this sort of four-prong approach, which is the mindfulness expression. Then the key for me was really getting into vision the life I would love. What does that look like? What does it feel like? What could it be? And that was such an amazing, like, aha moment, a healing moment, that it was like, oh, wow, I can share that with people, So everything is built upon that. And then the activism, I've always been an activist. I was raised that way. It's a little strange, the philanthropist is an abuser, but hey, the family, the family was always about giving and doing. And so I'd always worked in that arena or volunteered in different organizations. And then I didn't tell people.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Do you think that and I know, and this is really to help people listening, right? From what you have experienced, do you think, so my belief is that we're all here for a purpose.
Oh, yeah.
And how we get to where we are is not always pretty, right? It's not, life isn't always a pretty journey. Right. But in the context of us traveling, as I say, down our path to bliss, there are things that happen to us, and they happen to us for us so that we can help others along our journey. With regards to what happened to you and the discovery of utilizing art and other modalities to help you release that pain, have you come across anything that, with regards to the healing therapies that you use, that just really, really resonated with you more than anything else?
Well, visioning, as I mentioned, is one of those,
So let's talk about the visioning.
Okay.
When you say visioning, just, to keep it real for the audience.
Yeah.
What exactly do you mean when you do visioning?
Okay. When I vision, I have to think about not the pain, but what is the life I would love to live? Who am I? Who am I becoming? And even in the struggles, in the moments, what am I learning? How am I becoming the person? Because I believe that we are all infinite beings. As you said, we are here for a purpose. And every dream we've ever been given is because we are here and it's been downloaded to us. And that I believe that is part of my vision, and so it's learning to listen to the quiet voice within, or God, or, whatever that is for you. And taking that and imagining a brighter future. I mean, there was no way I could imagine the things that could have happened because I lived this experience. And, used to be people say, they would talk about their pain and they say, I'm thankful for it. I'm like, oh, nah, that can't happen. But I did eventually get to that place and say, I became the person I am. I am here for a purpose. And that purpose guides every decision I've been making for many, many years. I look back and the work I've done in the community, volunteering for organizations that have, dealing with abuse across the lifeline, sponsoring people. The first time I gave a talk was terrifying. Let me tell you, my knees were shaking. I thought I was going to throw up, just wanting to tell people that there is more to life than the pain, that there is.
I love that. I love that. It's really interesting. So when I was clinically practicing as an emergency room trauma nurse and flight nurse, I would get these young ladies, and I worked nights. So, all bad things happen in the wee hours of the night. And so I would get these young ladies in that have been sexually assaulted, physically assaulted. And I would talk to them, and some of them were so encumbered with the pain that they couldn't understand why it happened to them. And some of them felt that they deserved it. But there were those very small population of young ladies that knew that even though they were in the midst of this really traumatizing, challenging, painful experience, that they were here for a greater purpose. And that always was very enlightening to me, because to be in a place where you're coming from such a traumatic experience, which you didn't ask for, and understanding that it's part of your purpose, part of your path to get to where you want to be. These ladies, those specific ladies, were actually able to visualize their existence beyond the moment of pain that they were suffering at that moment in time, right, when I was taking care of them. So I think it's really, really interesting how we all have things that happen in our lives. And of course, there are some very heinous things that happen. But those of us that can understand and understand that it happened to us, but it happened for us so that we can enlighten and empower others, I think is absolutely phenomenal. And so I'm sorry, we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back to the Blissful Living Podcast with my guest, Rae Luskin. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Okay, this is the Queen of Feeling Fabulous, Dr. Rochel Marie Lawson, and I am having a wonderful conversation with Rae Luskin, and we're talking about just the journey. But now I want to move into healing. So the healing aspects through the art and the creative mindfulness. I want to ask you this. How can doodling and scribbling help with stress and emotional regulation? And if you guys are not taking notes, you probably want to pay attention and take some notes with this. So can you share, Rae, how that can help us?
Well, they've done lots of studies about the power of art. You know, a lot of, ladies now will be, they get their coloring books and they'll, use them and stuff because it's just come out of this whole research about the power of the arts to heal, that it reduces stress, reduce the cortisol level, that kind of thing. And it releases endorphins. And when you actually are doing art, not just in your head, which is, to me, is the meditation, but you're physically doing something. You're using both parts, your body. And I suggest that when you scribble, you use your non-dominant hand and you close your eyes, because so many of us judge ourselves on like, oh, I can't draw. I'm not asking you to draw. And how can it be anything other than, you're scribbling with your non-dominant hand, so that becomes, I always suggest you do that. Try it. Pick a color that's your favorite, start scribbling until you feel, oh, wow, you'll start noticing some changes. Then pick up another color and do the exact same thing. And after that, it's a whole process that you can do it in like 10 minutes. Then I would suggest that you start coloring, and notice, what do you notice in there? Was an image did pop up? Is there a feeling that shows up? And if you color inside the lines, I'm going to ask you to color outside the lines. Which, or turn it around or look at it differently. And then from that, then you put together, it's a whole, you write down all the words. First of all, you write down the colors that you use. So if you did purple, then what's free association? Purple majesty, or blue skies, blue, green grass. And you put them all down in words. And then after that, you sort of create your own, what was the name of that? Mad Lib, where you're going to use all the words. And sometimes the most profound, beautiful things come out of that. People's questions have been answered. Life changes, because of that. You can start with an idea in mind and ask a question, and that will come forward because you have now opened yourself up to the other possibilities. You're opening up new neural pathways every time you do that. And it is just, it's fun. It's something you can do as a family. You can do it for yourself. I just want to show you a couple things. I've had journals forever, okay? So this journal is actually from 2013. And this one is not necessarily a scribble, but it's journaling, but it's easy. I just traced my hand and wrote stuff.
So Rae, with regards to the coloring part, do you recommend getting coloring books? First of all, I don't even know if they still exist.
Oh, coloring books are very big.
Or do you just get a piece of paper and just freestyle it with the non-dominant hand?
I freestyle, but at work, I've worked with some people, like some accountants and stuff, who are just stressed all the time during busy season. And so one woman, she got a coloring book. But at first she was so guilty, about doing this. She shut her door. But eventually she opened her door and got other coloring books and left them in the, the kitchen area. So all her staff, and they just all breathed easier. It was fun. So that's one way to do it, where you're just coloring. I mean, it just relaxes you. And it can be fun and creative or not. But if you want more, I think creating your own scribbles and doodles does make a difference. And sometimes you're just painting. We can all paint a heart. We all know that. You can trace your hand. So I've been recently doing some work, and you just never know what's going to come out. And these are all things I did for like 20 minutes, scribbles and doodles.
Yeah, I want to ask you, what is the recommended time? Like, do you 5 minutes, 20 minutes, 30
I
minutes?
think 10 minutes.
Whatever you can fit in. And
whatever you can fit in, but 10 minutes really does it more. And if you can, just do the scribbles and doodles for 10 minutes, see where you are. And depending what you're doing, you can have a dialogue with your scribble. Not just what I just said with the words.
Are there any creative exercises that within the scribbling and doodling that we can do to help free us from the baggage that we carry within?
Right. So let's imagine we're going to take, you're upset about your body. You mentioned that in the beginning. It's summer and your body's not quite right, and so you would do body awareness, and you would think about, okay, so what am I feeling in my body right now? You do a little, you go through a whole meditation, and that takes a minute and a half, really. Where's your stress? What does it feel like? What does it look like? And you just scribble it, and then you have a dialogue with it. So why do you feel that way? What does my body need today? What do I need for self-care? What's bothering me? And again, you can use your non-dominant hand to answer, or not if you're not comfortable with that. But that's one way to do that. The other thing is a dialogue. If you are with, you have a partner and you can't get through, you're having struggles with your communication, you can start scribbling. And it could be as simple as your scribble could be more like a triangle. And then the other person, what do you put? And you add it to it. And that becomes a dialogue. And it's fun. It's different. And people can communicate. And I had some couples who were really fighting about their kids and stuff. And then they started playing with these tools, and it's like, oh, this was a way to communicate without words.
I love it. It probably helps a lot in relationships as well.
It does.
With regards to not fault finding or blaming the other spouse or significant other, or whatever situation, whatever it is. We have to take a quick break, you all, but we'll be right back to the Blissful Living Podcast. Okay, we're back. This is Dr. Rochel Marie Lawson with Rae Luskin, and we're talking about the art of self-healing and scribbling and coloring and all the stuff we used to do when we were kids and enjoyed it so much. And I love this because it allows you to free those emotions that are locked up inside you in your own context on a paper. And you don't have to share it with anybody. You can just let them flow out. I love the ideal of using the non-dominant hand because, it just does what it kind of wants to do. We can't control it like we do with the dominant hand. And so I think it'd be really impactful and powerful to see what comes up when we use that non-dominant hand as part of this. Now, I want to ask you, because you talked about a little bit about, being an activist and helping people to turn their pain into purpose. How do you do this with those that are really still in the very traumatic essence of their pain?
I really, at this point, if they're in that space, I suggest they talk to a therapist, a coach, somebody who's, really working on that with them. I'm more the next step. I would believe, that it's more about what can you do for yourself, to take it to the next level. And, I have some workbooks, and stuff I've created over the years. One's called Stuck to Unstoppable. It's just a little journal with 3 questions for every letter of the alphabet. And then I have 30, I have this other one called The Creative Edge. So it's all those little activities like I was just talking about, So you can do those. But I think that at this point, I'm trying to take this to the next level as far as healing, because I think people need to hear stories. I think they need to know that there's possibilities beyond their pain. And too often we don't hear those stories. We get stuck in the person's pain story. And I think we need to share more of the other. So that's what I've been trying to work on, this creative activist turning pain to purpose and creating this social platform, which I really just started on Substack like 2.5 weeks ago. And
I love it. I love the part you're saying, taking your pain and turn it into purpose.
Yeah.
I think so many people get caught in their pain and they don't, sometimes it's so traumatic and it's so raw, it's so fresh that they can't even fathom turning it into purpose. So I love that you're doing work to help people with that and being a creative activist with regards to that. Our time is up with the Blissful Living podcast. I know it goes so fast.
It goes so fast. This was fabulous.
It does. So much. But I do want to thank you for being a guest and sharing this beautiful, beautiful wisdom and insight on the creative arts and how coloring is more than just a childhood activity. I don't even know if kids color these days. I know
my grandchildren still color. So
yeah, man, I had coloring books, and we'd have these competitions. It was all about staying in the line, but I think it's beautiful to bring that back into our essence. And today, there's so many things that we had growing up as children that today we'll never ever experience. And so,
and people are so surprised. And what I want to take 1 second more
back into today's flow is great. Okay, we have to go. I want to thank our sponsors, Blissful Living for You at blissfulliving4u.com, as well as All Day Cable Incorporated at alldaycableinc.com. And you all know, again, share this show, subscribe to it so you get advanced notification. But it's these things that we can share with you that we can hopefully have you share with others to help us to make the world a better place. I'm Dr. Rochel Marie Lawson, the queen of feeling fabulous, and I'm wishing you peace to your mind, wellness to your body, and a beautiful tranquility and tranquil essence to your spirit today. Until next time, goodbye for now.